Hi everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today's tumbler tutorial is going to be this American tumbler with the stars and stripes. Like always, I will have all of my materials posted in my description below, including some links and coupon codes for y'all to use. If you have any further questions about this tumbler, how it's made, or if you're confused about anything, you can always reach out to me on my Facebook page or my Instagram account at Miss Kiss Creations. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this tumbler. I am working with a 20-ounce skinny stainless steel tumbler I purchased from Maker Flow Crafts. I sanded this tumbler down with a 180 grit sanding block, and then I wiped it down with 91% alcohol. After I wiped it down with 91% alcohol, I sprayed it with a flat or matte spray paint. My tumbler is completely dry now. So now I'm going to be working on adding the tape. I will be using painter's tape. I know a lot of people, they use electrical tape, so use whichever tape you feel more comfortable to use. I'm going to be placing my tape diagonally around the tumbler. I'm not measuring this tumbler at all for this step. I'm just placing a piece down like so. So I'm going to overlap on the top, and then I'm just going to take the bottom and kind of roll that on the bottom there. Once I'm finished placing this piece of tape, I'm going to be taking another piece of tape and I'm going to be having them line up at the bottom. So the second piece of tape that I'm going to be placing is going to be straight up and down, but I want the bottom of both pieces of tape to touch. So that's where your guideline's going to be. So I'm going to add the tape to the bottom and then kind of eyeball it just to make that tumbler straight. Once I have my template on my tumbler, I'm going to set my tumbler to the side and I'm going to start mixing my acrylic paint and Mod Podge. The acrylic paint that I'll be using today is going to be Apple Barrel, True Navy, and then I have my Mod Podge and my orange container. I placed a little bit of Mod Podge here in my painter's tray, and to be honest, that's probably a little too much Mod Podge, but y'all know me with my heavy hand. Next, I'm going to be adding a little bit of the acrylic paint to my Mod Podge and then mixing it together to make that one solid color. Adding the acrylic paint to the Mod Podge is optional. If you don't have the color on hand, you can just add the Mod Podge and then add the glitter. I like to add the acrylic paint just in case you can see the tumbler through the glitter, so the tumbler will be blue instead of that white. I'm going to be taking my paint and Mod Podge mixture and then placing it on my tumbler. Like I said, I added way too much Mod Podge on here, so I do have a lot left over. And if you don't have any Mod Podge, I know a lot of people, they like to use just acrylic paint for adhesive. So if you want to go ahead and try that method, you can. Now that I have my paint and Mod Podge mixture on my tumbler, I'm going to be going in with Glitter Heart Co.'s Deep Blue Sea. I'm going to be applying that glitter all over the tumbler where I've added that paint and Mod Podge mixture. I've added my first coat of glitter to the Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture. I'm going to let my Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture sit and dry for about 15 to 20 minutes. Once it's dry, I'm going to add another layer of the mixture over the glitter and add its second coat. This is completely optional. For my tumbler, I can see there's a lot of streaking on the glitter, so I just want a full covered tumbler. So I'm just going to take my time, let it dry, and then add that second layer. It's been about 20 to 25 minutes, so I'm now going to be adding my Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture over that first layer of glitter and then adding the second layer of glitter on top of that Mod Podge. When adding the second layer of Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture, I like to blot it on top of the already laid glitter. Just in case if I paint it on, I might smear off some of that glitter, and I don't want that to happen. I believe all of the Mod Podge first layer is dried, but just in case, I like to be sure and just blot it. And now to add the glitter again. Now that I have my second coat of glitter on my tumbler, I'm going to peel up this painter's tape. I am peeling up this painter's tape while that second Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture is still wet. Make sure you're doing this while the second coat is still wet, just so you don't accidentally rip up some of that dried mixture while you're pulling up the tape. So this allows you to have a more crisp line. And even with this, I have that one layer of dried Mod Podge. So I'm making sure that I'm pulling this up very slowly and carefully. I'm going to be pulling this piece of tape away from the glitter. You can see I'm having some difficulties with trying to find the end of it. So I'm going to start at the other end of the tumbler, and I'm just going to be pulling it up very slowly. I'm pulling away from the glitter. So I'm not pulling towards, I'm pulling away to keep that crisp line. Very slowly, just like so. Now that I've peeled the paint from the tumbler, I'm going to go around the tumbler with a baby wipe and kind of get rid of this excess glitter. I did get a little messy here, so I want to make sure that this is completely white. And thankfully, the areas where there's not any Mod Podge, the glitter's not going to stick. So I'm just going to clean this up and then we'll move on with that next step. I'm also going to be taking a cotton circle and some 91% alcohol, and I'm going to be rubbing off any paint that may have transferred over underneath the paint on that white tumbler. A great tool to use is a Q-tip and some 91% alcohol. I don't have that on hand, so I'm just going to be using this cotton swab. That Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture comes right off of that white tumbler. Now that I have my tumbler cleaned up, I'm going to spray it with the Krylon Crystal Clear acrylic coating. I'm going to be focusing on the blue areas, but if you overspray the blue areas and you do get it on the rest of the tumbler, that is okay. It is no big deal. I'm going to be spraying 3 generous coats of this sealer. Once I spray 3 generous coats of this Krylon Crystal Clear sealer, I'm going to let my tumbler air dry for about 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to go outside, seal this, and I'll see y'all soon. Hey everybody, I'm back with my tumbler and my spray adhesive is completely dried on my glitter. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taping off the lines for the red and white stripes. Now this is completely up to you. You can put your 13 stripes on your tumbler if you like. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit my 13 stripes, so I'm just want to give the illusion that the flag is on the tumbler. I'm not trying to exactly replicate the entire flag by adding all the stripes and the stars on the tumbler. You can use any size tape you like, and you can even use different sizes per stripe. So make this tumbler your own, be creative. So I have 2 different size of painter's tape here. The smaller one is 1 inch and the bigger one is 2 inches. I'm first going to be taking my painter's tape and I'm going to be lining up the very top of that tumbler. So I'm going to be trying to make this line as straight as I can, because this line is very important, because this is going to set the line for the rest of the tumbler. The painter's tape, or the tape that you use, is just going to be a guideline, so just keep that in mind. If it does bubble or kind of crinkle up, don't worry about that. You're going to be peeling it right back up. Now that I have my first piece of tape laid down, I'm going to be taking another piece of tape and laying it down underneath the first piece. Just so I don't have to place a lot of pieces of tape down, I'm going to be doing the red inside of the 1 inch tape and then the white inside of the 2 inch tape. Once I place my tape on my tumbler, I take an X-Acto knife and then I just kind of cut along the edge of where the glitter is placed. I'm cutting just along that diagonal line there. From this step, you have 2 options. You can either continue your pattern down the bottom of the tumbler, which is what I'm going to do because I think it's the easiest way to explain, or you can do kind of like a leapfrog. So I can peel up this smaller piece of blue tape, add my red glitter here, then place a smaller piece of red tape here, peel this up, add my white, and then kind of go back and forth, back and forth. But I'm going to be placing my entire tape on my tumbler and then just peeling up one section at a time just to better explain it to y'all. I'm going to skip ahead on this part just to save time for the video, so I'll see y'all whenever my tape's been placed on the tumbler. My tumbler is now taped off, and I just want to show y'all that this is not perfect, so do not panic about these tape lines. As long as your tumbler looks as straight as it can be, that is okay. If your lines, some of them are a little thicker than the others, it's not going to be too noticeable, so don't stress about that. I also didn't put another piece of tape on the bottom because I'm going to end up taking up the tape, so I might as well just leave it blank for now. As y'all probably know, the next step is going to be mixing my paint and Mod Podge mixture together. I'm also going to be using the Apple Barrel brand Crimson Color Red. You can use any color red you have on hand. And like I mentioned earlier, you do not have to do this part. I just like to do this just in case I see the tumbler peeking through behind that glitter. I'm going to be mixing my Mod Podge and paint together, and then I'm going to be adding it to the tumbler to act as that adhesive for the glitter. It looks like this is a little hot dog tray, and there's ketchup and mustard right here. Now that I have my mayonnaise and ketchup mixture, my Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture mixed together, I'm going to be applying it with this paintbrush. I always like to start the red stripe on the top of the tumbler just to resemble the American flag, but like I said, it's your tumbler, so you make it how you would like to make it. I'm first going to be removing that first piece of painter's tape from the top, and then I'm going to be applying my Mod Podge and paint mixture on the top. And you can see that Mod Podge and paint mixture, it really lightens that red color. So if you want to add a little bit more acrylic paint, or if you want to add a little bit more darker red paint, you can go ahead and do so. I'm carefully going on the side of the line, so I'm trying to not overlap any of this paint to go onto that blue glitter. And then I'm also going to do a straight line, or as straight as I can, along that next piece of tape. So this part is very tedious. This part is going to take probably the most amount of time, but once you're finished with it, it's going to be well worth it. Once I have that first line of Mod Podge on the tumbler, I'm going to go in with my red glitter and place that over top that Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture. The red glitter that I'll be using is going to be chili pepper. And I've applied all of my glitter to my tumbler. You can see it looks really sloppy, and I even missed a spot. That's okay, this is just my first layer. I'm also going to be doing my 2 layers like I did with the blue side. Now for the next small stripe. Like I did to the top, I'm going to be peeling up that painter's tape, and then I'm going to be applying that Mod Podge on the tumbler. The reason why I don't use a sponge brush for this part is because of these little tedious areas that I have to get. So these little angled brushes work very, very well for this part of the tumbler. I know I'm still taping off this tumbler, so it's really hard to go outside the line, but I still like to try to keep it within the tape and the lines as much as I can. Once I have that Mod Podge and acrylic paint on the tumbler, that's when I'm going to add that red glitter again. And I don't know if I mentioned this to y'all earlier, but I always add the darker glitters first and then the lighter glitters, because if I add that dark glitter after, then if I make kind of a boo-boo, like if I accidentally overlap that white, then you're going to be able to see that red overlapping the white. In this case, I'm adding the darker colors first, so if I accidentally overlap that Mod Podge and add some to the red and then add the white glitter on top of the red, it's not going to be as noticeable. And again, it looks like a bunch of sloppiness, but it's okay. We're going to be adding that second coat. I'm going to finish up the next 2 lines, and then I'll return with the next step. I have my first coat of red glitter on my tumbler. By the time I get to the bottom, the top part should be dry. So I'm going to be adding my acrylic paint and Mod Podge mixture back on the top, and I'm going to be repeating this process. So like I said, I'm going to be pushing through this part just to save time on this video, and then we'll move on with the next step. I just want to mention to y'all one thing, that I am finished with the two stripes up top. So I'm going to be removing this blue tape. I always like to remove blue tape while that Mod Podge or any type of adhesive is still a little wet. So I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can, because if you do not move this blue tape, then it's going to be ripping up that glitter and adhesive. As you can see, it's already starting to kind of rip this up on the top right here. So this part gets a little tedious, like I mentioned before, but it will be fine. And here's a perfect example. The paint dried right here. I ripped up the painter's tape, and then it ripped up with the tape. But that's okay, that's an easy fix. I'm just going to continue throughout the tumbler, and then we'll move on with that next step. I have added my glitter to my tumbler, and I have removed all of the tape. Now I'm going to go in and kind of clean it up a little bit. So I have this spot that I was talking about earlier. What I'm going to be doing is just taking that paintbrush and adding just a little bit of paint and Mod Podge on that area, just to kind of connect that line together. So I'm just adding a little bit, just like that. And I want to kind of smooth out that glitter, because whenever you peel up that glitter with that Mod Podge, that glitter kind of peeks up. And then I'm going to be adding the glitter right over that. And you can see that line is nice and straight. So I'm going to be going around my tumbler and just looking for little spots like that, like this one here, and just kind of connecting everything together. I also have kind of a bald spot up here, so I'm going to be adding more Mod Podge and acrylic paint to this area. And the key is, whenever you add this Mod Podge over, kind of like cosmetic, I should say, little tiny little areas, I try to add as thin as Mod Podge as I can, because I don't want to make it look like there's a big glump of or a clump of glitter on that. So I try to like fan it on the glitter area, just so it can kind of blend in. You can see I added it there, and you can't even tell. Once I'm finished touching up this tumbler, I'm going to be doing the same thing as I did with the blue tumbler. I'm going to be taking my 91% alcohol, and I actually found some Q-tips, and I will be just cleaning up kind of the edges of that tumbler. Anywhere I see some paint, I'm just going to take my cotton swab or my Q-tip and clean up that area. Now that I'm done cleaning up my tumbler with the alcohol and the Q-tips, I'm going to go around and just double check to make sure there's no glitter on the bare areas. So what I usually do is blow on the tumbler, make sure there's no red glitter kind of overlapping the blue, which it should be completely cleared of the red since you've sealed it. I'm now going to bring my tumbler outside and spray it again with 3 generous coats of that Krylon crystal clear acrylic coating. Once I'm finished spraying my tumbler, I'm going to let it dry again on the cup turner. Don't have to turn on the cup turner for about 20 to 25 minutes. So I'm going to spray my tumbler, and then I'll see y'all soon. My acrylic coating is dry once again, and then I'm going to add my last color, which is going to be the Snow Furry. I'm going to be adding it with only Mod Podge, obviously because it is white and Mod Podge is white. So I'm going to be doing this with the same way. I'm using one of these brushes as well. I'm not using this sponge brush just so I can get just a better coverage on the tumbler. So I'm going to be showing you this process, but I will be skipping through a lot, like I said, just to save on time, because it's basically the same thing as adding that red glitter and the blue glitter. I'm just taking my time and adding the Mod Podge, all the glitter, and then I'm going to be doing a second coat if needed. All of the white glitters on the tumbler. I don't know if you're able to see it, but there's a lot of lines underneath the glitter that I can see. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next coat of Mod Podge and acrylic paint over the glitter. Once I'm finished with that, I'm going to repeat that process of spraying this tumbler with the Krylon acrylic coating. So I'm going to skip forward to this step, add the glitter, spray the tumbler, and then I'll see you with the next step. My Krylon crystal clear acrylic coating is now dried on the tumbler. This tumbler is completely sealed. I have sealed this very well. If I touch this, little to no glitter comes off on my hand. So this is what I like to have my glitter sealed in very well, so when I go to epoxy, I don't have to worry about the glitter moving around the tumbler. My next step is going to be applying my epoxy to my tumbler. This part of the video is going to be fast forwarded only to save on time. So I'm going to mix my epoxy and then go ahead and add my epoxy to my tumbler. Welcome back, everybody. My tumbler is completely cured. My next step is going to be sanding this tumbler down with a fine grit sanding block. So I like to use my 220 grit sanding block. I like to sand this very lightly, only because if I sand too hard, it's going to sand away the glitter. So I'm going to be sanding this around the tumbler and then I'll return. Now that my tumbler is sanded, I'm going to be taking my 91% alcohol and wipe around the tumbler. This just allows the tumbler to get rid of any of that fogginess that you may have created from the tumbler, or it might get rid of any of the oils that you may have transferred to the tumbler from your hands. Next step is going to be placing some decals on the tumbler. I'm going to be placing some stars around the tumbler in the blue area. I did get the stars from Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to be placing the stars just around. They're not going to be obviously 13 stars. It's just going to be random stars placed around the blue area until it's filled up. And like I say with all of my tumblers, make this tumbler your own. So if you like to add more stars, less stars, or even if you would like to add some gold stars, make this tumbler your own and customize it the way that you want it to be customized. Once my stars are placed on the tumbler, I'm going to be placing these goldish lines on the tumbler. These are boxes, and all I did on Cricut Design Space was I created a box, and they are 0.20 by 11.5 inches. So it was 0.20 by 11.5 inches, and that creates a line. So all you have to do is add a shape in Cricut Design Space and create those measurements. I will also have those measurements posted in my description below. I wanted to just create kind of a nice little accent to this tumbler, so I chose this nice goldish holographic vinyl. Once I place the vinyl on the tumbler, I just take an X-Acto knife and I just either X-Acto knife it off, or I take a pair of scissors and I just cut off the ends. You can of course do this in any color, so if you want to keep the silver theme, then you can also do this in the silver theme as well. So I'm going to be placing one on this side and then also one on the straight side. And I'm going to be placing this as straight as I can. It does not have to be perfect, and then cutting off the ends. And for my last decal, it's going to go on the red and white stripes. Since I'm not customizing this tumbler with a name, I'm just going to be placing America on this side. So this would be a really great opportunity to put someone's name along the side of this tumbler. This decal was found on Cricut Design Space as well. And here is the final tumbler before epoxy. I really like how this turns out. I want to show y'all close up the cute stars, how holographic they are, and then I have that nice vinyl strip to separate the stars and stripes. And of course I put America on there because, well, it's an American flag. And as you can see, the bottom turned out really cute as well with all those glitters mixed together. For my next and final step, I'm going to be applying my last coat of epoxy. I will be mixing about 30 milliliters of epoxy for this 20-ounce skinny tumbler. So that's 15 milliliters part A and 15 milliliters part B. I am going to be skipping this part because you should know already how to mix epoxy and add it to a tumbler. And if you don't, I do have a help video down below in my description below, so be sure to check that out. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tumbler and craft videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.